Three. Hey, what's up? This is Wilson with Abysmal Hymns, and I got Reza Mills back with me. We are going over the top five Cure songs. Top five songs by The Cure, as promised. This one was kind of like David Bowie. It was like a matter of narrowing it down. Some of them automatically popped up in my head when I brought this, because we each nominated five different artists. So when I said The Cure, I already knew like two, well, at least two or three were going to be. But yeah, it was narrowing the ones down. I think that kind of, for me, captured like every era of their career at every era of my life when I discovered them. So yeah, that's what we'll
Mm.
do. So what are your thoughts on the situation?
Yeah, The Cure, it's really funny. I remember the first time I ever listened to them was I heard the track Lullaby and I wasn't crazy about it. I'm still not a big fan of that song, but someone was like, "Oh, you should definitely dig into their catalog. There's more to them than that." Because at first I just thought it was just like the kind of music that would inspire people who like Tim Burton films. And I was like, oh, okay. But then you need to scratch the surface, and there were some fantastic records there. So one of the first goth bands, really. I mean, I suppose up there with Susie and Bauhaus and Christian Death and all those other groups. But as my first choice will hint at, it wasn't always doom and gloom
Right.
necessarily.
So, and my feeling is that you're going to have more in that era than I will.
Mm.
My guess is that I'm going to have the most recent
Ah,
songs. Oh, well, at least in one case. Who knows? We'll see what
sure.
happens. We'll see what happens. I
Very
mean,
good.
and it's kind of funny, because like a lot of times people think of The Cure as like an 80s band, but they started in the 70s and spanned all the way to a lot of the big songs people know of them, came out in the 90s too. So,
Yeah, and it's really funny actually because I saw a bit of a documentary about them, and they really, I mean, until recently, that is, in the 90s, they kind of floundered a little bit because anything that wasn't from that horrible Britpop thing, and obsessing about the bloody Beatles or the Who or something, and waving the Union Jack was somehow, oh, well, we can't have this. So they kind of fell by the wayside somewhat, but it's kind of good, especially recently, they won a Grammy for them to get that much deserved acclaim.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, we have our thoughts on the Grammys, but I think that
Yes.
they definitely need more credit as a whole. I would say,
Sure.
they kind of took what David Bowie did and ran with it in a different direction. And
Mm.
I think that they have like mutual respect. I'm sure David Bowie um, had strong positive feelings about The Cure. I don't think he would have. There's not a ton of overlap, but I think that they definitely had appreciate. Except Reeves Gabriel,
Of course.
they share a guitar player now, so or
Yeah, and
did.
I think Robert Smith actually he did like a top 10 albums of all time, had Low in there. So yeah, very much so.
Yeah,
He was a
I can see
huge
that.
fan.
I
Yeah,
can see that.
especially that era. Yeah, for sure, man.
Right. Yeah. So that I guess that was the connective pieces. Reeves Gabrels was the connective piece between the Cure because he played on Robert Smith was on Reeves Gabrels' solo album that
Yeah,
came out before he even joined up with David Bowie.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
It was really good. I saw Reeves Gabrels live actually in a pub in Manchester, and he was great. He was. It was a bit, yeah, I guess if you like Tin Machine and the harder rock stuff, with a bit of psych maybe, then it's definitely worth checking out his material for
right, right,
sure.
right. And correction, it was before Reeves Gabrels joined the Cure, not before he joined up with David Bowie. Nobody
All
knew
right.
who he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
before Tin Machine.
It was quite a while back indeed.
Right. All right. How about you get us started since I think your selection is going to predate mine.
By quite some distance, my friend. So, let's start with an album that came out the year I was born, 79. And it's an album called Three Imaginary Boys. Now, this is a record. It's kind of funny that they went a bit poppier later on because they actually started in that vein, albeit pop in the vein, I suppose, if you're into bands like Wire, if you're into XTC, that has that kind of nervous energy to it, that spikiness, maybe Elvis Costello to an extent. And it has so many hilarious tracks on it. I mean, I think Firing Cairo is on this, Killing an Arab, very controversial track. And it just has that very sort of kind of vibe to it. It's poppy, power pop even. And the track I'm going for is a number called 10:15 Saturday Night. And it's kind of this like it sums up what it's like to live in the UK, basically. It's grey, it's miserable, it's dark, it's damp. Our pubs shut super early. Well, I think they used to actually. So it's just you're bored, and especially if you came from where Robert, I think he's from Crawley I think that's in Surrey,
Right.
um, and really, really horrible place. So it kind of typified the misery of living there, but it has just this, yeah, it's just such a for that record as well. It's quite a moody track. Um, Especially the bit that goes, the tap drips, 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 drips. That part especially, it just sums up the dreariness of what it must have been like to been around at that time with no internet and, not much money and everywhere shutting really early. So, yeah, definitely an interesting first record. If you're like a hardcore goth, I guess you probably wouldn't be into this album. But I really dig it. And as with In Excess and all those bands, I think it was kind of very much of its time and still quite a rewarding listen.
Yeah, I think they're definitely good songs on it. I mean, I mean, it's The Cure still. So
Hmm.
I've always maybe not super revisited every song on the album. I mean, I had it on cassette at one point in time. So, I mean, now I just have everything in a freaking file, so I have all the Cure albums like that. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I certainly like it. There's some other I like that song and some of the others that you named more than some of the like more boppy, almost new wavy type songs.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's songs like Grinding Halt, which is quite punky. I mean, Fire Cairo is absolutely hilarious. Just the way that that whole thing is phrased. It showed that The Cure, I think, did have quite a good sense of humor. If you take away from all what they would do on the next three albums, maybe, they weren't totally po-faced. And yeah, it's a fun record, it has there's tiny snapshots of they would do later on. But it's a very sparse sounding record. So bear that in mind when I come up eventually with my next choice, that use of that term sparse.
I don't lag too far behind you. My first pick, since we're going to do them in chronological order, I guess, is from the 1980 album,
Yeah.
17 Seconds. And I'm going to go with the song M, which kind of, I see that as like splitting the difference between being super mopey and melancholy, but still some of that post-punk tension to it.
Hmm?
So yeah, so that's the one. I like it lyrically. It's really feels like it's more personal than sometimes what you get from him. Less metaphoric.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, just a great song.
Uh, oh, what was your choice? Sorry, was it
M.
from?
M from
Oh,
17
M, right. Oh,
Seconds.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I've got you. Yeah, yeah. It's a like the rest of that record. Yeah, you're right. It was definitely a step up from what they did before, the album that I just mentioned. And really, I suppose some people, I'm thinking Robert Smith himself. Yeah, Robert Smith himself probably sees this as their true debut because I think he had a few issues with the record that I just mentioned. So, yeah,
I
and
can see
of
Robert Smith having an issue with every record.
a bit of a perfectionist. And it's the first record actually to feature Simon Gallup. His, well, I guess for the most part, on again. a songwriting companion of sorts, and definitely brought another element to the band, I feel.
And I think one of the players that's most important to their sound,
Yes.
like his bass style kind of defines what The Cure does and, goth music in general. It's rooted in the
Mm.
bass line, that's creepy, and then everything else is like the guitar opened up to be more ethereal eventually.
Yeah,
We'll get to that pretty soon.
sure. All right. So I think great minds think alike. I too went for 17 seconds, but I've gone for a bit more of an obvious choice. I went with the forest. And I have two words, yeah, to say. If you've ever seen the video for this song, Ben Affleck, he basically it's basically Ben Affleck. He looks like him. He has this really super short haircut. Quite a striking young man, in fact, he wasn't quite turning into the inspiration for Edward Scissorhands yet. And yeah, I love A Forest. It's just kind of that sort of post Joy Division kind of proto goth sound, super moody. Again, I use the word sparse. It feels very stretched out, very atmospheric. And you can sort of see where bands, I guess, like Slowdive would eventually get their inspiration. Because and you mentioned Ethereal, I think, just now, and it definitely has that feel too. It's just such a great song. It's such a standout on that record, on what is already a very, very good record. So yeah, that's definitely my next choice, A Forest.
Yeah, because it kind of takes the tension of like post-punk, if you think about bands like Joy Division,
Yeah.
and marries that with like a little more hypnotic drone. And I think
Oh
that
yeah.
that's where you get into like the bands like Mogwai that would kind of lock into the
Yeah.
drony parts.
Oh yeah, but whereas The Cure at least had a sense of brevity, the Mogwai obviously carried on for 17 hours each song, going on and on and on. Um, but yeah, at least The Cure had a good sense of, actually hooks are okay. You could
Right.
have a little bit of melody here. It's nothing wrong with that. But I'm being facetious. But yes, you're absolutely right. Um, Kind of progressive in a sense, but not in the worst sense.
Okay, well, I'm gonna jump ahead 2 years. Most people probably see this coming because
Mm.
it's their darkest song. It's from 1982, Pornography's album. I'm gonna go with 100 Years.
Yes.
That
Brilliant.
guitar song, that guitar tone on that is just like crushing. It's heavy. It's one of the like songs I use an example of what it means to be heavy without being metal.
Yes.
And that the darkness of it is heavy, emotionally heavy. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and it's still hooky that
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great tune.
the
That's the
lyrics are awesome.
Is that the one that opens the record? I'm
Yep.
trying to remember. It
Hmm.
does. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what? If we had heard, for example, that Robert Smith had have gone the Ian Curtis route after this record, I wouldn't have been surprised. Um, Based on this particular album, it actually makes Closer seem like ABBA by comparison. It is bleak,
Hmm.
and then some, but brilliantly so. I mean, I really like that, but you can sort of understand why Bob sort of decided to lighten the tone somewhat afterwards, because he probably thought, how far could I push this? Maybe
Yeah, he wasn't going to pay the rent with another album like that. That's for sure.
no, exactly. It was pre LC.
Hmm.
So yeah, definitely. Yeah, great album and hell of an opener. And yeah, you're right. That sort of droniness about the song as well is a hell of a lot of fun. So yeah, classic.
Indeed. All right, what you got?
So I went to the album before this. I went to Faith because for a long time it was kind of an album that I had overlooked somewhat, but it is still part of the classic trilogy of albums, 17 Seconds, Faith, and Pornography. And some people don't progress past these points, but Yeah, the song I've gone for is a track called Primary. And it's apparently, I'm just having a look at it. Um, one review from a guy called David Hepworth reads, he wondered how long The Cure can continue to prop their songs against the same chord progression with its clambering bass and deadpan drums. And you sort of forget what an important part of the band Lowell Tolhurst was. I always felt like without him, once he left or was sacked, whatever your interpretation is, I felt like they lost something. I think he was such a key ingredient. And Primary, Faith, it kind of occupies that weird space between, okay, 17 seconds, they were starting to get a little bit darker, and then Pornography, they went all in. This was kind of varying between the two. It wasn't overwhelmingly so, but it was still the start of his somewhat depressive phase. So, yeah, and Primary is just such a classic tune. So that's definitely my choice.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I like that album too. It's just there were so many songs that I had to narrow it down to that none of those,
I know.
you know,
It's like Bowie. It's so
make my
hard
cut.
to narrow down. And I could have gone for something from Pornography, but I sort of guessed that you would have gone for something. I just didn't want to just like, just
And
repeat.
this one will be this song. My next one will be from an obvious album, maybe not the obvious pick,
Yeah.
but it was a crucial song and a soundtrack of my life at the time that I was obsessed with it. And this song in particular, like it took me a
Hmm.
while to get past this song to get into the rest of the album, even. So I'm gonna go fast forward a little bit to the first Cure album I bought, which was in 1989,
Hmm.
and it was Disintegration, and the song's Plain Song, which,
Oh, yeah.
I think that kind of set the stage for me to get into bands like the Cocteau Twins.
Oh man, absolutely. I mean, that is such a stunner. It is definitely like it's weird because it's so orchestral sounding, and me being kind of a sappy romantic of some sort, it just has that immersive feeling when you find some right person and you feel so overwhelmed by emotion. That's how it kind of sounds to me. Um, and yeah, it's just, and again, you can sort of see why I think the Cure are touring this year. They've got Slow Dive supporting them, and you can see how there was such a big influence on that band, and shoegaze and dream pop in general,
Mm,
really. So yeah, that's just a gorgeous opener. What a way to kick off an album.
indeed. All
And
right.
it's quite long as well, isn't it? That intro especially. It's not just like, this is hardly hardcore. It takes a long time before the vocals eventually hit.
Right, yeah, for sure. It's like a
Mm.
couple minutes at least.
All right. So my next choice, well, I've started to listen to it a little bit more in recent years. I've gone for 1985's Head on the Door, but I've not gone for In Between Days, which, obviously is quite a defining song, or I haven't gone for Close to Me, which I've never been that fond of. The song I've actually gone for is a song called Push. And again, like Plain Song, it's got this really sort of drawn out intro, and it's quite minimalist in terms of lyrical content. There's a lot of like go 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 that bit, and it's the kind of song that reminds me like it should be on on a John Hughes sort of soundtrack, like The Breakfast Club or something. It has that kind of angsty uh mid 80s new wave vibe, and again it's quite delicate, um and it just has that sort of angsty feel to it. So I think it's kind of an underrated gem on that record. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, sure, I can see that. I have seen them play it live before, and it was really effective.
yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of good songs on that album. If I had to pick one from that album, it would be The Blood, but
Hmm.
you know, all those songs are all of them are great to me except the pop songs. So,
Yeah, again, I really don't like Close to Me very much. I don't know what it is. I just find it quite, I feel like it's their version of People Are Strange in a way.
I can see
Um,
that a little
that
bit.
kind of,
Yeah.
oh, look how quirky we are. And oh,
They're
yeah.
definitely into the doors. I mean, I like, even though I said the pop songs, I do like Six Different Ways. It's not really depressive, but I like that
No,
song.
sure. And yeah, I can definitely see a song like Push, for example. I can just see, as I say, Molly Ringwald, isn't it? Yeah, sort of doing some
It's the
sort of,
scene where they're skipping school and they're peeling
yes,
out of the parking lot,
yes, absolutely.
throwing
Or
their cigarettes out of the side of the
it,
car.
if it had have been released in 1984, it could have accompanied 16 Candles.
Right.
Um, well, of course, it was the same year as the Breakfast Club, so yeah, it could have featured in that, or maybe instead of that Simple Minds atrocity. But yeah, yeah, very, very cool track. I'd forgotten how much I liked it actually.
Well, since we're going to go with soundtracks, I'm going to pick the song that's from a soundtrack that came out in 1994, and
Yeah,
that's the Crow soundtrack. I'm going to go with Burn,
nice.
which is another one of the Cure's heavier songs.
Yeah,
It definitely is on an album with like Nine Inch Nails and um Rage Against
Helmet.
the Machine and Helmet and
Yeah.
all of those bands. And the Cure held their own. That song's just as heavy as any of those songs. Maybe not as heavy as the Pantera song, but they never intended to be, except
Well,
maybe
no,
when he went
I
into his new
mean,
metal phase.
it's such a great soundtrack as well. I think Rollins Band are on there as well,
Hmm.
and yeah, they fit really well. It's just such a great tune. I'm trying to remember the scene. It's been so long since I've seen that film.
I think
But
it's on when he first heads out to be the crow in the night, the first kind of the opposite of the John Hughes vibe where you're going is the more brooding, I'm going at here I am going out to rule the night type feel.
yes, well, Gothic basically,
Right.
not so much like, oh, I'm a misunderstood teen, and I want to get with this guy, but we're different social strata. It's definitely like I don't give a
That's
fuck.
going to be the remake of The Crow that they bring out next
Oh
year.
God.
It'll be that, I'm sure.
Oh no. I sincerely hope
I
not,
don't know.
but
I didn't see the remake, so
I'm just shuddering to think what the soundtrack will be like. It'll probably be blooming Ed Sheeran or something.
I don't know. I mean, they did do a remake that came out a couple years ago, right? With I think Alexander Skarsgård or somebody was in it.
Oh right, okay.
I
Oh,
didn't I
it's
didn't bother
okay.
with it though.
No, I don't. It didn't really register, to be honest with you.
Right.
Um, no. Cool. All
All
right.
right, what you got?
So, I was kind of umming and ahhing what this last choice would be, and they did a record in 1990 called Mixed Up. Just make sure I got that right. It is indeed. And there's a pretty decent tunes on here, but there's a number on here which sort of gets a little bit overlooked. It's a track called Never Enough. It's probably like the most sort of neck hard rock that these guys would ever go. I've heard some people say it was kind of jumping on that sort of baggy bandwagon, like Stone Roses or something. I can't quite hear it in that vein, but it's definitely got a bit more of a what we in the UK would call laddish or a laddie sort of feel to it. Like a slight swagger, I suppose. It's not something that you could exactly associate with The Cure. And like Burn, which I guess was a bit more industrial in places, this just sees a harder edge to their sound, which, coming off the back of something like Disintegration was certainly a bit different too. So I think it's just a really fun tune. Is it the best song they ever wrote? No. But for what it is, I would say it's definitely one that people should uh, give a listen to. And Mixed Up is a really good remix record too. I really, in the last 10 or so years, I've really been getting into remixes. Whereas, I don't know, you'll have remembered this in the 90s. you get like, I don't know, if you buy a Metallica single or something, there'll be like the single and then 20 different remixes, but all really boring and not going anywhere. Um, Here it's just done in a really inventive and interesting way. So good record and an interesting tune from them.
If you like remixes album, they made a remix album of the last album that came out 2 years ago.
Yeah,
It's called Mixes from a Lost World.
right. You
And
reviewed it.
yeah, 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 it's worth checking out.
Sure,
And I'm not into a ton of electronic music, but
sure.
yeah, it's good for what it is.
It's pretty long though, right? From what I remember.
Yeah, because there's like it's 2 discs, so there's
Wow.
multiple mixes of there'll be like three different mixes of one song.
Wow. Oh, it's one of those sort of things, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, cool. As I say, in recent years, I mean, I remember really liking Moby's cover of Until It Sleeps, for example. So I think that remixes, when they're done in an interesting way, can be beneficial to a band. But sometimes I just find them to be totally uninteresting. Like, I don't know if you remember the remix of Soundgarden's track "Fop,"
Mm-mm.
which it's fine. It's just sort of just sits there really. It doesn't really do anything. It's so yeah, you listen to it once and you're just like, yeah, that's kind of I'm done with that. Whereas done well, it can be far more intriguing, sometimes even more than the original. So
Yeah, I like some of Leibach's remixes of Morbid Angel.
didn't I don't think it was a remix. Didn't Liebach cover One Vision
I
by
wouldn't doubt
Queen, I
it.
think.
That would make sense.
I think I remember it, and I remember laughing because it was it sounded like
Well,
you
they did a lot of stuff that was, intentionally in your face like that.
it was just more amusing. I've
Right.
got no
Almost
opinion
like
about it.
Negative Land.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Obviously, yeah. Negative Land, yeah, and you too. Sure. Cool. Nice one, man.
All right, I am going to go. My last song will be from a 1996 album, Wild Mood Swings. And once again, I'm going with the first song called Want, which is, kind of like Plain Song in the way that it's very expansive sounding. It's less symphonic, more expansive. Lyrically, it sounds like he was kind of sorting through some stuff with consumption,
Hmm.
which in 1996, I was also sorting through some things not too successfully with consumption. So I really
Hmm.
appreciated the sentiment. And yeah,
Cool.
I think when you go delve into that type of thing, it creates a honesty that was pretty powerful lyrically, you know. And although that I would say Wild Mood Swings is an underrated album,
Hmm.
um, it, there's still like the Bossa Nova I could do without, But
That's that's a really strange record. I don't think it's necessarily that well liked. It kind of gets, I don't want to say slated, but I think a lot of Cure fans are a bit like, we can take Wish, but this one, mm, you know what I mean? I think it kind of gets a little bit brushed over.
I
And
mean, it's more experimental than Wish. Wish sounded like a direct descendant of like they were picking up where they left off with Disintegration,
yes,
just taking it in a more refined poppy way.
sure. Yeah.
This is like no, it's more like Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, I think.
Yes, I know what you mean.
If
It's
this
quite,
had come out after Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, it would have made a lot more sense. But
yes.
Robert Smith doesn't care.
Going light, then going dark, then going light
Right.
again. I mean, I remember Mink Car and I think Strange Attraction, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Strange
not one of.
Attraction's kind of, I can live with that.
Yeah, I'll need to give that probably another visit, to be honest with you. I've kind of always overlooked it a little bit, but yeah, and it's interesting that we both sort of stop in the 90s. And
Right.
like,
I mean, I do like the stuff that came after this. I mean,
yeah,
even I Need to go back and give that Ross Robinson album another listen. I'm not opposed to it because I've
No.
seen The Cure so many times. I've seen them like 12 or 15 times. And so a lot of that, like the first time I saw them was on the Wish tour. So everything else was after that. Like I've saw them on every tour after Wish.
Yes.
Um, so, that meant that I would, some of those tours were coinciding with some of those albums that, could be questionable. I will say I probably saw them the most on Blood Flowers. I think he toured for that the
Yeah.
longest. And so I might have seen him 3 times on that tour, but
Yeah.
I did see him on the Wild Moon Swings tour, and it was great. All those
Yeah.
songs flowed really well in the set, and I mean, obviously he didn't overdo it. I think he landed a little more solidly on the hits on that tour than when I saw him, I want to say 2 years ago.
Mm.
Um, it was before the last album came out.
Right.
So he played a couple songs off that nobody had really heard, and didn't play. He played a couple of I mean, Friday I'm in Love and the expected songs, but there were some
Mm.
deep cuts in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've kind of overlooked some of the. I mean, I like Blood Flowers. I haven't really ever properly checked out the two after that. Of course, I have listened to the most recent one, and that is quite good. But you need to put aside quite a bit of time for it because it's not exactly like, it's about as far from wild mood swings and stuff like that as you can get, I think. So
Yeah, it's not pop songs at all.
it's not, no, it's definitely a lot denser
Right.
in that respect.
Heavier.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, yeah, and probably going back to disintegration sort of vibe, to be
I mean,
honest.
I could hear it coming out after, like if that had come out after Wish, it would have made sense,
Yes,
you know.
definitely.
And then Wild Mood Swing. So maybe he's in a drunk in a time machine, just putting out albums, and his timing can be a little whimsical. We'll we'll call it that. I think of whimsy when I think of Robert Smith a lot of times. Particularly with
It,
songs like
it
Love Cats.
Yeah, it's really funny. There seems to be two sides to him. There seems to be obviously the sort of the gloom stuff that I really love and that you love, of course, but also it is that kind of English eccentric whimsy, which even as someone who's English, I sometimes find quite hard to stomach because I don't do whimsy very well. Um, but I still appreciate some of the quote unquote poppier or quirkier songs. It just maybe in slightly smaller doses.
I would say that self-titled album
Mm,
is also going to be less whimsical
yeah.
than the 413 album.
Yes. Yes.
So if
Well,
you're going
absolutely.
back and digging into those, that's probably the way to do it.
I mean, both were terrible cover art, probably intentionally so.
Right.
But thank God that that's improved. And but yeah, I digress. Yeah, definitely have to dig back into them a little bit more.
For sure. Yeah, I think the 413 album was the last show I got a shirt at. So it has that kind of funny art on it. But
Yeah, I'm sure if it's his probably is one of his many nieces or nephews, I'm guessing maybe,
yeah,
which
who knows?
sorry Bob if it is, but you know, uh can't help it. I just don't like those album covers. It's like that ridiculous cover. Remember Black Flag? What the
Right.
that ridiculous cover, which
Speaking of
I
Black
know.
Flag, they were on your list, right?
Oh yeah, so it was.
So
Yeah,
Black
thanks
Flag
for
will be next
reminding.
week then.
Quite a change in tone.
Yeah.
You got English whimsy, sometimes goth, to yikes.
Yeah.
Um, album cover like posters. with things like "Make Me Come Faggot" and that kind of thing. Yikes!
Yeah, they couldn't put that album, they couldn't put that type of shit out in 2026 for sure.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely. No, I'm really, really, just as this has been a great show, I'm really looking forward to the next one because Flag are definitely a huge part of my life and changed my life. So,
All right, well, you heard it. Next week we will be diving into Black Flag's top five songs. So if you're into punk, check that out. If not, go listen to these Cure albums and shut the fuck up. Have a good one, like and subscribe and do all that shit that you're supposed to do on YouTube.